So where were you in 1977 when Sandy Sturgis got her start as a school bus driver in Harris County, Georgia? You'll learn a little bit more about her later. Welcome to The Route, our school bus fleet content series. I'm Wes Platt, executive editor. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to recap some of the recent top stories from schoolbusfleet.com, and I've got an interview with David Christopher, the executive director for the New York Association for Pupil Transportation. Click like on this and all our other videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your comments are always welcome. If you get a chance, please post who you are, where you're from, and I'll give a shout out in a future video. All right, let's get rolling. Our first stop is Clifton Park, New York, and the headquarters of the New York Association for Pupil Transportation, or NYAPT. I recently had the opportunity to talk with NYAPT's executive director, David Christopher, about what's been on his mind in the Empire State. Here's what he had to say.
All right. Hey, we're here today with Dave Christopher from the New York Association for Pupil Transportation. Dave, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for the invite, Wes. Much appreciated. Get the word out about New York.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, from electric bus money coming from the EPA to I know there's a big project going on in the Bronx with some state money that they're putting in there. You've got third-party training going on that is, I think, a model for other states to look at. So that's the kind of stuff that I definitely want us to be able to cover today.
Sure.
What are the good things that are happening in New York's student transportation industry?
Yeah, sure. So you had asked me that question, and I got thinking about that. You hear a lot of the negative things, right?
Yeah.
Buses running late, and we don't have enough drivers, and a lot of stresses of the business. But I think the positive is this: in the midst of coming out of a pandemic, we're in a situation where money's tight, costs are up, unprecedented driver shortage. Our people still get this done every day. Every day they take kids to and from school. They do it safely, with lack of resources. And I think that's the story. I think, they're doing everything they can to make this happen in such a way that kids are getting to school in person for the first time in a couple of years, where, schools are operating full capacity, right? Kids are all in person. Extracurriculars are going on. A lot of demands on transportation departments, and school transportation professionals are making it happen. Managers, drivers, leaders, mechanics, the whole team.
And it's not just your basic to and from, home to school. It's field trips.
Sure.
It's high school sports is back. It's amazing that things aren't worse, I guess, is a way to look at it.
Right.
Because I'm seeing that. I'm in North Carolina. And, even in my local school districts, we're hearing about problems from shortages and kids running late in Durham and Wake counties. And it's astonishing that things are not much worse. And I hope that they get better over time. We kind of covered the pain points in talking about the good stuff, so I think we can let that go. But how have your association members been adjusting to deal with driver shortages?
Well, I think it's fair to say they've been doing about everything they can. Every arrow in their quiver has been pulled out and used. They're continually recruiting. It's a 12-year process now. We've got several schools that are doing what are called drive-in rides. They invite people from the public in and just drive a bus around their campuses to get the feel for it. And that seems to be pretty effective. Of course, the normal put a bus out front with a sign on saying drivers wanted, those kinds of things. They're also increasing pay in hours and benefits, which is, driving costs up in every regard. But that's what you need to do to be competitive. There's just a lot of opportunity for people with CDLs now to do different things. So if you want to attract them to your business, you've got to kind of think differently than we used to think in the past. Be a little more flexible. Maybe I only want to drive in the morning. Maybe I only want to drive trips. Maybe I want to drive in the afternoon. Those kinds of things. And in New York, one thing that's possible is to get a New York CDL license for smaller vehicles. so that maybe you're a person who doesn't want to drive a big yellow bus, but you'll drive a small Suburban or a van. So there's a way to get a CDL in New York to allow you to do that without having to take a road test. So that's a good thing too, to attract people who might otherwise not want to be in the business. So they're doing all kinds of neat things to make it happen. And we're seeing some relief in some areas, but it's still a serious problem. There's just no bench out there. They've got enough perhaps to just cover the runs every day. But you get a few people calling in sick, or you get a little hit of COVID in your department, you got a problem.
Yeah. Next up, what is the association's view of this mandate to convert New York's school bus fleet to electric by 2035? That doesn't feel that far off to me.
No, definitely not. And it's getting shorter every day. Well, I think I can start by saying none of us like mandates.
Yeah.
But I can also tell you that through the years, every time a new mandate has come down the pike, those of us in this business have got it done. Across the state, I think there's varied opinions of this. Some folks are totally against it, others are embracing it. But I think in general, we're all trying to learn more and understand that that's the direction that we're going in the industry, and do what we can to make it happen. The problem in New York is significantly underfunded. Even with the EPA money, we have a $500 million bond act that was just passed. We have NYSERDA money, which is a New York energy think tank type department that handles grants and money for these kind of projects. Even with all that money together, it's not enough. A recent study done by Empire Center here in New York estimated between 8 and 15 billion to get this done in New York. And that's not only buying the bus, right? The bus, the manufacturers, the dealers, they got this figured out. They've got a good bus that you can buy that works. It's the infrastructure. That's the wild card, the unknown. Every school district and operator in New York has got a little different need there in terms of power capability, and what power can they get from their local company, and what do they got to do to get it into the pipeline, get it into their operation. There's over 700 school districts in New York State. We're not we're small school districts, not county run, so it's a little different than perhaps what you see in North Carolina. So it's a big lift. And then at the end of the day, do the power companies have enough power to run 50,000 buses in our state? Because we have a large fleet of buses. So it's there's a lot of challenges, but we're seeing operations dig in. We've got a few public school districts that have dipped their toe in the water and picked up a few buses. We've got some private operations contractors who've done so as well. So we'll see. We're kind of hopeful that in the next round of budget coming out next year, that more funding will be available, because what's on the table right now just won't get it done for sure.
And as I recall, transportation has never been something that's been well funded in a lot of states.
No, absolutely not. No. And that's back to item number one. What are some of the good things that are happening? They're getting all this done with limited funding, right? I mean, certainly when you look at the significant amount of money is paid out of state aid in this state, which we're fortunate to have that. It's probably not enough given what's being done. I mean, it's a significant lift to transport 2.3 million kids every day.
Our last topic is the third-party testing program. How has that been benefiting your association members in NYAPT?
It's a good policy, good program. We advocated for this for the past several years, along with some of our other partner organizations here in the state, the school bus contractors, the coach companies. We thought that would help with the driver shortage, and that we can get drivers on the road faster. That's the key, right? To get them in the door, get them hooked, and get them on the road driving a bus and making money. So we went to the governor's office and asked for this, along with others, and Governor Holtschuh was good enough to make it happen. And when she first came into office, DMV's done a wonderful job running this program out. Can't say enough about New York DMV in terms of what they've done to roll this program out. We've got probably, I would say, probably a dozen carriers now that are doing third-party testing, maybe more, last count.
Nice.
And it works well. They train their people, and then they have another individual in their operation who actually does the testing. And it's a big lift for these operators to do this. It's not a simple process. I think we better appreciate what DMV had to do in the past to get a driver on the road in terms of the test process. So we'll see. I think that it's going to take some of the backlog off from our DMV. It's going to help in that way. It's going to help get drivers on the road a little faster. And I think it'll catch on. It's not for everybody because according to federal regs, there's certain things that you have to do. You have to do about 10 drivers. You have to do 10 drivers or more a year, which some will never do. But it's certainly good for some operations.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for taking the time. Always informative to talk to somebody like you about the industry and kind of get a sense of what's happening in your state. Stay in touch, and I hope things continue to go well.
While we're in New York, let's talk about the landmark settlement in the class action suit filed by the American Diabetes Association against health and education leaders in New York City over educational and transportation equity concerns for diabetic students. U.S. District Court Judge Nina Gershon gave preliminary approval to a settlement that includes reforms that will require the city's Department of Education, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and the Office of School Health to modify policies, practices, and procedures related to planning to determine and meet student needs, providing care to prevent exclusion and segregation, and training for staff and contractors who work with these students during the school day and in after-school activities. Among the reforms in the settlement, developing and adopting a template plan for students with diabetes, committing that accommodations necessary to meet student needs aren't denied based on resources or available funding, establishing new timelines for how school staff will plan to meet the needs of students with diabetes, training for nurses, paraprofessionals, teachers, administrators, school bus drivers and attendants, and other school staff on how to care for students with diabetes, and making changes to ensure appropriately trained staff are available for students so students with diabetes can attend field trips, eat with classmates, ride the bus, and participate in sports and after-school activities with other students. Judge Gershon is expected to give final approval to the settlement after a fairness hearing that's currently scheduled for April 19th, 2023. Crystal Woodward, director of the American Diabetes Association's Safe at School initiative, hailed the settlement, saying, "The American Diabetes Association is hopeful this settlement with one of the largest school districts in the country will motivate other school districts to examine their diabetes policies and practices and also offer parents another tool to add to their diabetes advocacy toolkit." Next, let's head down the turnpike to Wall, New Jersey, and the headquarters of Student Transportation of America, which kicked off an employee giving campaign to support St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The company has committed a donation match of up to $100,000 for any funds raised by STA employees. Said STA CEO Patrick Vaughn, "We are fortunate in that the mission of St. Jude is a cause many of our employees are passionate about. Family is part of our culture, and through our giving program, Driving for a Cure, we hope to encourage more of our team members to come together and raise funds or volunteer to support this organization. We have a social responsibility to support children and families, but it's so much more than that. This is our chance as an STA family to make a real difference." Is your organization planning charitable fundraising drives this season? Reach out and let us know at School Bus Fleet. Our last stop is Hamilton, Georgia, where Harris County School District officials recognize Sandy Sturgis for her 45 years of service so far as a school bus driver. Sturgis, who started driving the yellow bus in 1977, can remember picking up children standing on the side of the road, driving without route sheets, and if the bus broke down, unloading everyone and finding the nearest home with a phone to call for help. Said Sturgis of the recognition, "I'm speechless. I'm shocked. I really do love my job. I know I complain sometimes. You really have to love it to be a driver. If you don't love the kids, then you don't need to sit in that seat." Are you a school bus driver? How long have you been behind the wheel and why do you love the job? Love the Bus Month is coming up, not too far off. So let me know why you love the bus in the comments. All right, it's time to park the bus for now. Thank you for watching. And here's a shout out to YouTube subscriber Scott Geier. Tell your friends about the route. If you've got news, reach out to me by email at wes.platt@bobbit.com. Tweet us at School Bus Fleet. And remember to post where you are, who you are, where you're from, and I'll give a shout out in a future episode. Thank you for watching. Drive safely and see you next time on the route.